Okay, so today I wanted to make a quick video about stage fright. I had a message not so long ago as I did a gig in London. There was a guitarist in the audience, a younger guitarist, that sent me a message to ask a few questions. And one of those was about how did I overcome stage fright. But yeah, I think most of us have to go through that first period where you might be good at playing guitar, but obviously you're not good at performing yet. So you have to go through that phase. Like when you learn to play guitar, it felt difficult to play a C major chord or a simple melody, but then you obviously went through that initial, phase of learning, and now you're learning how to perform in front of people. It's just a different skill, so to speak. You might be great at playing at home, but then once you get, in front of an audience, you become nervous. Your brain goes into a different area, so to speak. I wanted to share my experience on how I managed to go from playing, in front of people when I was a teenager, when I was a kid, and being terrified and not being able to play, to playing. I'm going to try and post a picture here, playing in front of, a full theater, or this is a picture of me playing in front of about 20, 30,000 people at a festival with cameras and a very quick sound check and just walking on stage and just doing it really. Um, Obviously, I'm not a psychologist, so if you feel that you have like horrible panic attacks and stuff like that, just talk to a professional, and there might be more than just stage fright, like just common stage fright. So this is just for most people that want to perform and enjoy the performance. Just walk on stage, be confident, and just enjoy just enjoying playing with your friends and playing with a band, or just playing by yourself. Just recently, I've heard this quote, and I just want to read it. Confidence is the consistent felt experience of success. So I want to say that confidence is a process, and you might be very extroverted, very careless, and just walk on stage, play. But I would say most people, the first time that they are on stage, not only the environment is different from your room at home or whatever, wherever you're used to playing. The sound system might be different, the sound might be different. Speaking and singing into a microphone might feel different. So you have to experience that. And as I said, this is a process. This is not something that happens overnight. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those videos where a psychologist tries to get the fear out of spiders out of people. Obviously, first they show them a picture of a spider, then they are in the same room with a spider, then, so this is kind of the same thing. So it's you're a bit by bit getting yourself in a situation where you're experiencing success in performing, basically. So I would suggest some things are to do with visualization, which, to be honest, I'm not really too keen on, as much as they might help you a little bit. I would say that you have to do it. You have to do it, and you have to expose yourself a bit of the time to the experience of performing and removing that sense of this isn't impossible. Okay. The first step I would say is record yourself, make a video of yourself, and just watch it back, and just pretend you're the audience and say, how did that sound? Because you might be surprised actually of how things are okay. You wouldn't feel any, if you sat in the audience and watched yourself perform, you wouldn't feel that bad about it. You'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Second, I would say the second step would be to send that video to a trusted friend or to a family member and ask, how do you feel about this? If you sat in the audience, can you give me a bit of feedback? Then the third thing I would do is I would try and find an open mic night or a jam night and try to get yourself in that situation where you are in a different environment than the one you're playing. And then I would build up to playing enough open mics and these kind of things where you feel that initial discomfort of being on stage or in an environment that is not your usual one, is removed to a certain extent. Obviously, you have to be critical in a way. You have to be critical in a positive way. And I always suggest a book, which I'm sure most people have heard of, The Inner Game of Tennis, which is about not being critical in a negative way, just being critical in a way that is finding things that you don't feel you like and asking yourself, what can I do to over time improve them? Yeah, so it's basically a process of growth. That's all it is. Try to, a bit of the time, get yourself in a situation of performing and feeling that that's okay, you're successful at it, and try to focus on what you've achieved rather than the things that we need improvement, which is, as musicians, we tend to always focus on the things that need fixing. So I would try to also from time to time write down the things that you've done right. Okay, because you want to make sure that you are aware of your strengths, so to speak, of the things that you're doing right, not just the things that you're not good at and fixing, which are important, but at the same time they're just part of the process, just part of the puzzle, so to speak. So let me take a moment to say that if this video is of any value to you, please send it to somebody that you feel might get some value to. Share it on social media, like, subscribe, the usual stuff. And there are some links in the description, and usually I put some links in the pinned comment as well, if there's a tip jar to listen to their music, to check out my website and all that. Okay, let's keep going. Being aware that you will make mistakes and coping with errors. So at some point, I did a few gigs. I'm not really a singer. I've done background vocals at gigs, pop gigs, but I wouldn't say I'm a lead singer. I'm an entertainer in that way. I'm a front man. But I did gigs where I was just playing with the guitar and singing more in an acoustic environment. And at the beginning, I was very aware that I was getting into learning a new skill, which was the one of singing and entertaining a crowd, which obviously was a process. I understood that from my skills of being able to play and perform with the guitar. Obviously, at some point, I got to the point where I was in front of an audience with another professional singer, and I forgot the lyrics, and obviously the first thing I did, like most people do, I was just, talking to this professional singer, and the first thing he said, "You're not the first or the last singer that has forgotten the lyrics on stage." And it's amazing how for him that was like the default setting, like this is stuff that happens, So you have to be able to cope with errors and mistakes, minimize them, obviously, especially in certain environments like theater is very important to be able to deliver. In pop gigs is very important to minimize errors. So you want to be prepared. That's very important. That's another point that I will touch in a minute. So be able to cope with errors and always have a line that you can say by default when these things happen. If there's a heckler, just learn, just watch a few stand-up comedies, and you will see that stand-up comedians always have a line that is ready to go when something like that happens. So study a few situations where you can say something that you're comfortable saying to a crowd, will get you out of the situation and will turn that into fun rather than you sweating and blushing. Obviously, it's very important to be prepared. And the most important thing that I would say, especially for guitarists, is muscle memory. Create that muscle memory. Get to the point where you will be able to be on stage and the piece that you're trying to play or the part that you're trying to play just comes out. Because you will be in situations that are very far from your home environment, where the light is perfect, the sound is perfect. The monitoring might die. You might start to play the song pitch black because the lights have not come on. I've been in situations where I missed the guitar stand, because I went from full bright stage lights at the end of the song to pitch black between tunes, and I had to change the guitar in pitch black. So there are situations where you're not aware, where you're not in a familiar setting. So it's important to be able to create that muscle memory where the lyrics are learned by heart and the tune is just happens. That's called muscle memory, and that happens over time. Nowadays, we're quite lucky that with tablets, if you have to read music, we don't have to trust, the lights on a music stand. The music is going to fly off in the middle of the performance. So try to figure out whether there are great apps that you can use to get your lyrics, even though I've always preferred to have stuff memorized, because it's always better. You can get into the emotional side of things. You can close your eyes and just deliver the song. I always prefer, if I can, to have the music memorized. Because obviously a lot of this stuff is to do with nerves. Try to be relaxed. I find that being relaxed, even if you have to go into a high energy gig, is better than being hyped up, like wound up. So try and avoid caffeine, anything legal or illegal that kind of perks you up. I prefer to be, even physically, you're more aware of where things are if you're relaxed. That's purely my personal experience. You might deal with things differently. But I find that, stretching a little bit, which obviously is very good for your hands as well and your voice, be warmed up. Make sure that your instruments are nice and balanced, they're not too heavy. So try and find a position where you're relaxed when you start to perform, because it's always better for the sound, the tone of your voice, of the instrument. So try to get on stage or into your performance that you're relaxed rather than wound up. Okay, visualizations. My experience with visualizing things, it's never been very relevant to me. It's always been, as we're saying at the beginning, a test that I can do what I have to do without feeling too nervous. Okay, so visualizations. The first thing you can visualize is an audience that is supportive. You go on stage and you perform with confidence, and the audience is supportive. That might actually get you to get on stage and overcome those first few minutes there that are the hardest, so to speak. Then once you play half a song, usually you become more relaxed. Some people that do more like public speaking, they say to visualize your audience naked. I don't believe in that stuff. But to me, it would probably instantly make me laugh. I really don't suggest that. There are some more extreme things where you would again work for me in certain situations, but I don't really think, that I've heard one that was saying, visualize your own funeral, so that you realize that whatever you're about to do, if it goes well or badly, is not going to matter in the end. I understand the logic. A bit extreme, take it with a pinch of salt. Another thing that a friend of mine actually mentioned is that every time he goes on stage, and this is a guy that has done pretty big gigs, he just thinks that whether you're in a bar in front of 100 people or 20 people, or you're in a stadium in front of under 1,000 people, it's just a lot of people that don't give a shit about you, about what you're doing. Which again, it's all about getting yourself in that frame of mind of going out and just enjoying yourself and enjoying what you do, because ultimately that's what you want to do. So that's another little tip, I think, to kind of get yourself into that mindset of going out there and just going overcome that very first initial few minutes of being on stage. Acknowledge the progress that you've made, as I was saying earlier. Once you've gone on stage, even if it was a disaster, I do remember, as I was saying, that the first few gigs that I did that where I made the mistakes, but I acknowledge the fact that I did it. And that was very much instrumental of me becoming a professional musician and making a great living out of that. So even at the beginning when it's difficult, you have to acknowledge that you've done it. And that's very important.